Welcome, everybody,
Oh,
to
there's
this meeting of success stories. Those who saw yesterday's introductory meeting didn't meet this guy. It's Daryl. Hi, Daryl.
Hi.
I'm Daryl, Betty.
Glad you're
Daryl,
here.
yeah, it's so good to have you, man. You are the sixth of our six members. We got to meet. Everybody got to see the first five yesterday, and thank you so much. I know you got to listen to the conversation too, which I'm glad for. And for those who didn't, if you're just hearing this now, I advise you to go back to the first one so you see the whole setup for what this is. I'm just going to ask Daryl to jump right in. How did you feel about what you heard yesterday? What did it bring up in you? This idea of success stories and you're being a part of it.
That this was really a good class, and it shows there are a couple from the previous Susan, Amy, in addition to the three. Am I missing someone?
Matthew.
Anyway, it showed what a what a solid group we've had.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to go ahead. I'm going to bring up your copy right now so everyone can see your story. Because again, there's a lot going on here. Daryl, you've taken cinema therapy classes, at least three, maybe four of them, I believe.
I think it's three. It might be four, but
Yeah. And again, thank you for that. We're so glad that you continue to find interest and intrigue in them. The big thing that happened for us, and we were talking about this yesterday about the iterative process, is in the first two, and it's partially the program and partially where you were at. You didn't seem ready, and perhaps I wasn't, pushing as much for it at that time about the importance of aesthetic distance. That you were writing a character named Daryl uh, at that time.
you attempted to push me towards aesthetic distance, and I was a solid wall of resistance.
So, and by the way, even with that, you did spectacular writing. It was really good, the writing you were doing. The difference to me is it didn't ever really come together. I think it was a great therapeutic practice. You seem to get a lot out of it. You certainly are a wonderful classmate and kind to everyone else too. But one thing we know as an organization is if we're going to get other people in, they have to understand what this is. We can't just keep relying on people to figure it out. That's always been our thing. So one of the things people need is they need to see the output, the actual stories in a way that makes sense to them. How do they make sense? Novellas, novels, screenplays, whatever, stuff that they're already consuming. So this is the first soup to nuts, like completed piece you've done. You've had pieces of a piece before, but now you have an entire framework and it's called confidence interval. Tell us about what you know or feel about confidence interval and what it feels like for you to see it up here on the page like this.
Well, that was a brilliant title thought up by you, Robert. So I don't take credit for it.
He's
Well,
good
it
at
was a
that.
yes and of both
Yes.
who you
Yeah.
are and what you were doing. So I'll put it that way. It's a collaborative thing.
Yeah.
So,
And what, but let me ask you this, because
yeah,
you have the
sure.
background, not a lot of people do, as a mathematician and a statistician, what is a confidence interval? And I mean, I know exactly when I look at the graphic makes me so happy, your book cover. But you tell those who don't know what the statistical or mathematical relevance of it is to the title.
Well, in the case of a bell curve, like in the title, it's the distance, it's the area between the tails.
Right.
So on each tail, there could be 2.5% probability and two and a half, making 95% within the bell curve. That's so you have some sort of confidence that the observation fits in that area.
Right. So there's a hypothesis and, good scientific guesswork we put into that. And I know guesswork's not a phrase people like to say in science, but good scientific confidence based on this statistical model that allows you to say with confidence that your hypothesis, in order to be considered valid, is going to land in the 95%. And for you in this bell curve is this house. And
Yeah.
this is fascinating. So tell us the story of this house that lands inside the confidence interval.
It wasn't originally there, but then as I was trying to make sense of what to write in 200 words, it became more more obvious it should be somewhere. It also came from in the drawing that Maya does for the second drawing that she does for Vincent,
Okay.
it shows him bigger than the house. So putting
So
those,
let's
yeah,
Yeah, there's a couple things that people need to know about this. Number one, this is a story of a character named Vincent who has Parkinson's. He's recently widowed and lost his beloved wife, and on top of that, gets news where he's living on the East Coast that he needs to come out to the West Coast where he grew up to settle this property. There is a family dispute. He is the elder statesman, the person who has to settle it between his sparring niece and nephew. His niece he's relatively close to, and has the two grand niece and nephew for him. And the nephew, he isn't as close to on one level, but on another, it's like he's almost a carbon copy of the male side of the family. And they have this musical connection, Johnny, right? So there's this incredible
right.
tension between them. And in order Johnny wants to sell the house, get the money, and cash out. And that's not what I apologize. Kathy wants. Kathy wants the house to exist, and I'm less clear about that. In some fashion, Vincent's caught in the middle of this, and this is where he's going to have to use his statistical analysis to prove, in some sense, the worth and value of the house, and show Johnny how he's undervaluing it and what a foolish mistake it would be to just let it go for what's being offered. Did I get that right?
Absolutely. You're very, very good.
And
Well,
the
and this,
last line of this
yeah.
description, the fragile space between loss and
Oh,
renewal,
yeah.
silence and song is it's just gorgeous, and it tells you that. I mean, I do know a little about the house, but
So let's open this up to the group here. Sharon, Karen, and Susan all have read this. All were mentoring this along the way. Tell me what you feel. I get chills thinking about this story now, from where, especially where it's come from, but also just I think plainly seeing where it is. If you didn't know anything about, how it got made, looking at it, I go, oh man, this just sparks all sorts of things about why it's a success story, why it's a really a commercially viable story. Sharon, Karen, or Susan, what does it mean to you, this story? What do you feel about it, Karen?
I was in two of Daryl's three classes, and just the evolution along the way. I couldn't be happier for him, with him, that it's coming together the way it has. I just, the relationships, the music, the people he created and brought in along the way, and the closing. Yeah, the closing of it, I still the chills and the tears.
Yeah. So
It's
yeah, that's the thing, and we're all. I mean, that's admittedly biased, right? We're all biased because we all love Daryl. I think we can say that pretty easily and honestly.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and anytime as a fellow classmate you see growth, it's great. I try to, as best I can, to step back and say objectively, as best I can, does this actually have commercial value? That is my job. That is my kind of doctor of story, as it were. And that's where I push you guys beyond what you think needs to be in there or what's in your personal life, to say objectively, here's what the hero's journey and what our brain responds to in terms of clarity and engagement. And to me, you've got the whole package here.
Yes.
Susan?
so the title is just so brilliant because there's a double entendre for both words.
Right.
And the confidence is maybe a little bit easier. I don't have a background in music, but I do know that the word interval fits in somehow in music. And then again, the last line here, you're saying there is a space, there is a real thing that can happen in that interval, and it's I love the wordplay.
Yeah. Daryl is someone who loves wordplay too, clearly, by what he's shown us throughout. And I think, for someone who has the level of creativity that Daryl does, sometimes getting it to mesh is a challenge, understandably, because there's so much firing. And we've given it a framework now. I mean, Daryl has really done the yeoman's effort. Sharon, for you, this is your first time. Oh, Daryl, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, first I want to thank especially Karen and Sharon for pushing me over the finish line here.
That's great.
You're very
Yeah,
welcome, Daryl.
Daryl has some beautiful imagery. I'm just every time I was in awe of how he developed his writing was just beautiful.
And Sharon, the good point here for us in kind of a testing ground is that, this is you, as we know, this was your first cinema therapy class. You
Yeah.
didn't know about Daryl's background. So, you
Right.
got to see and read it on the first time. Now that you see it and both you and Daryl have come to, well, all of you have come to, close to fruition. And in other words, a success story that we can put out in front of, people to show. What do you see or feel in Daryl's story that makes you, just as a viewer, as a reader, go, yeah, that's a good story. That excites this part of me. What appeals to you?
Well, it's the connection that he makes with his family.
Yeah.
It was such a beautiful thing. Even it, the difficult times that he was having, within, the journey going from the fear and then coming back into, oh yes, I can do this. And that was just so beautiful how he handled all the transitions. And it was almost lyrical, and that's what music is.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
just really related that to the music that Daryl loves.
It's a delicate balance to get these things to align, once again, to get them to mesh, to make music work on the page the way we experience it in an auditory fashion, right? And to explain those emotions, to explain the connections, and again, to layer the words, like Susan said too. So there are double entendres, so there are metaphors, so there are things that make the words leap off the page. And that's something I
Right.
feel with Daryl's writing consistently. The words are leaping off
Yeah,
the page.
and the fact that he was hitting on every emotional feeling that a human can have, and you were like so enthralled by it, and it's just like it's not like a bad feeling of like emotion, it's more like a whole experience of the emotion.
The stakes are high. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sharon, it feels like your story and Daryl's story have some
I agree.
similar path. They take kind of similar
Mhm.
paths. Were you? I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, I suppose, but did it help you in your story to
Oh,
hear about
definitely.
another person
Just
struggling
seeing the
with
other
similar
people's
problems?
processes and how they handle their stories. Even
There's
Karen's story was just really I was like, wow, Karen's character is so with it and on it, and you know, how
well,
can I have my character like that? And
I
you know,
appreciate. So one thing I heard Susan say, I think anyway, was the similarity in terms of the pieces of the story. You both have land that is in some
right.
fashion in debate, right?
Mhm,
For
mhm.
yours, you have a toxic land that is being
Mhm.
exploited by a different family member. In Daryl's case, it's a piece of property with a house on it that has all sorts of toxic memories for him. Um,
Right. Oh
and you
yeah.
both have pathways to figure this out. Similarly, you also brought Karen in the mix, which I like too, because she
Yeah.
also has a coming home story. All three of you have coming home stories, right? And
Mhm.
coming home to difficult challenges, really. And that was something that I think you all fed off each other, was the difficulty of coming home and really going after those things and finding creative ways to resolve them, unexpected ways to
Yes.
resolve them. And that's one of the things that's so exciting that all three of your stories do. Karen?
Well, Daryl's and Sharon's, but they had their group of characters in the beginning that they were holding on to, but then when they let go, trust the process, and open their minds up, the evolution of the brand new characters they came up with halfway through was just so amazing. The way they were full, rich, emotional characters, and for as much as in the beginning, everybody struggles in the beginning to try to figure out where it's going to go.
Karen,
But
I don't
when
know if
they
you can see
did,
this. They're both nodding their heads to what
yeah,
you're
yeah, but
saying.
when
Yeah.
they did,
Totally
it was just
agree.
these new characters that came out were
Yeah.
just
It
so
was tough.
much better,
Well,
so much
It
better,
was tough
so
to
much
get
more
out of the one
alive
person.
and structured, and just great stories,
uh,
great stories.
Right, Daryl.
This round has
Robert,
been amazing.
Robert, again, he he said, Vincent has to interact with more people.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
I had to do that. That I was in a sense forced to do it because I had blinders on.
Yeah, and by the way, this is where I mean I've used this as I started to describe to kind of better understand even my own role within this process. We've given me this title of Sherpa that I'm happy with, but I'm also yes, and I also want to lean into the doctor part. The same way a doctor diagnoses a person, I diagnose characters, I diagnose stories. And your character, what was keeping him from being heroic was his isolationism. And it was keeping the story, therefore, from being successful. You are very hard pressed to tell a story of a hero who is completely independent of all other people. There are examples. In fact, some examples I like very much. Usually, what they're up against then is a piece of themselves and the environment of some fashion. I think of the Robert Redford film of him on the ship a couple of years ago. I think of other isolationists. Ryan Reynolds in the box when he was buried is the name of that one. There are those types of stories. They're rare and unique. And so again, back to the confidence interval. If we're going to write within the 95% of what works instead of trying to write an outlier, I love that actually. Just as I say that, why would we work so hard to try to meet the 5% when we know there's a 95% success rate if you just follow what's in here?
Wow, what a great way of saying that.
Yeah, I knew that would jive with you. So that's really what it is, is the diagnosis of, the character in that sense. I mean, I know what generally works. There's not a guarantee, right? Just like in statistics, 95%, that 5% still happens. However, if you give yourself the opportunity of what Joseph Campbell laid out for us, what Carl Jung has laid out for us, and all these learned teachers talked about archetypes and the hero's journey, these structures, they say it is it's not, oh God, I gotta get the phrase right. That's why I'm losing it. It's not diagnostic. It's not, it's descriptive, not prescriptive. That's what it is. Descriptive, not prescriptive, right? People want to take it, say like a pill and say, it's done. No, it's not that. It's descriptive, meaning you can see where the general is, but it doesn't give you a guarantee. And again, what in life does give any of us a guarantee? I don't know anywhere. Right? However, again, here's the things we do well in this class, right? We show up together, we listen to each other, we explore themes and allow ourselves similar to what Karen said that I loved, is learn to let go of what we thought was right. And you were so right, Karen, that Daryl and Sharon did a beautiful job of vulnerably peeling back what their egos or their personalities were saying. It has to be this, and we get into it in this class. That's what people should know, is that not in a mean way, we try to, but at some point, yes, I do become forceful if I feel like, because there's a time factor. We have 16 weeks. How fast does that 16 weeks go?
Oh my gosh.
Really fast.
Yeah.
Just a second.
Not enough.
It seems like when we start, we're like, oh, okay, we have forever. And then it starts going, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. And oh, wait, and now I'm trying to wrap all this up. And, the energy, I feel it those last couple of weeks, it's like, okay.
Oh, yeah, really intense.
It is intense because we don't know. Daryl?
Just the last class I took, I was rolling along and then hit a wall about the 10th week or 11th. Yeah. I just was worn out, apathetic, stuck. Yeah. This time, with the collaboration, with the input, there was a lot more energy. I had a lot more energy.
I want to bring up two things that are important. This dovetails on where Susan left us yesterday, bringing up ChatGPT, and also the fact that Daryl was one of our early adopters in one of the earlier classes too, when we were first dipping our toe in the water. To make very clear to all those watching right now, we heavily use ChatGPT from a ideation standpoint, from a generative standpoint, not to do the work for us, however, to assist us And also, as we've learned, to really bounce questions and ideas off of, to get us out of where Daryl spoke of a moment ago, that place of stuck, of worn out, because so much energy is being put into the I have to do it, I have to do it, I have to do it. When the truth is, there's a we, and the we can involve, without cheating, without copyright issues, the use of ChatGPT to bounce, to free ourselves. Let's dive into that as a group about your experience with ChatGPT, Susan.
Well, I have a working example that's very recent, like the last 36 hours. So I'm at a point where my little purple dragon and my talking dog are forming a relationship. And I was talking to Robert, and I said, I don't. They're friends. I know the end of the story, but this part right here, I don't know what to do. And he said, think back to the last thing you did right, which was Ellie beginning to bond with the dragon. And Robert referenced for me the concept of the dog and the dragon playing together. And he said, maybe just write a story of the two of them playing a game. And I thought, oh, good idea, blank. And I said, I can't think of it. And he said, you go figure it out. He didn't tell me at all. And so here's what I did. This is what I wanted to tell you guys. I decided the game was catch. And I asked ChatGPT to give me some ways that a dragon would pitch a ball.
Oh,
in
wow.
ways that a dog would pitch a ball, in ways that a dragon would catch a ball,
Right.
in ways that a dog would catch a ball, not in the world that any of us live in. ChatGPT didn't do that for me. The collaboration of, my teacher and me and the history of what I'd already written, it was just, I've been grinning ever since then.
Well, and you can see anywhere along the way you might get stuck or stumble, this, that, and the other. And that was, I remember that conversation we had where I said, look, instead of, because you were so concerned, is what I heard, about getting the game right. It has to be the right game. And I said, let ChatGPT give you a list of games. And they could all be wrong. But what it does, even if it gave you 10 games and they're all wrong, you get to check those off. It does get
That's
you
exactly what I did. I asked
Yeah.
for 5 classic games and 5 original Dragon and Dog games. So I had
There
10.
you go.
And even then, they never did say pitch and catch.
But what it did, it freed up your
Spawned on me.
neurology to find catch, because you weren't just stuck staring or feeling some of the things that happens when we, right? Yeah. Karen, I saw your hand.
Susan and I actually had a phone call about something like this a while back, and I told you that ball was going to come in handy. I'm so glad. I kind of knew what you were going to say before you said it here too. That's exciting.
There's something very primal about the game of catch. And even before we can throw in the air the catch, the idea of even rolling something, we could do this with toddlers, right? With babies, back and forth. It's a give and a take, right? It's very simple. And yet there's something to that says there's a line connecting us. And yeah, Susan, you're muted. Unmute yourself, dear.
It's give and receive.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You're not taking exactly, you're
Right. That's right.
receiving. Yeah.
It's important. You're right. And so the idea, catch works clearly. It's, the foundation of Field of Dreams in some ways. It is certainly on the poster here between me and Dad. We played, catch every single ballpark we went to, and many other places in between, and the Field of Dreams. Because, sometimes when we didn't have words to say, we had a ball to throw back and forth to each other to say, yeah, we're connected. I see you. I'm with you. So the fact, what we've never seen is a dog and a dragon play catch before. So what a beautiful yes and.
Oh my gosh, it's so
We
cute.
already know.
I won't take time right now to tell you how they do it, but it's quite unconventional and quite cute.
Which is lovely, because that's what life, really is about, is these adaptations, right? And these are things we look for in stories, are surprises, things that we are familiar with, but not like that. that was an interesting take on something I already knew. And yeah,
Yeah, and there's a potential there for humor, and humor is so important,
let's
especially
talk.
some parts of our stories are heavy and sad, and
Oh, for sure. Let's talk about the value of humor. Daryl, I know you have a natural proclivity for it, and you seem to be able to wink humor into your story with such grace. Does it come natural to you, or do you have to place it?
I can recall not being sure it was going to work.
Mm,
That was my use. Is this over the top? Is this too on the nose? Will this sound weird? And just going for it.
yeah, humor is like that because no, you don't know everyone's taste. You don't know, have you set it up properly? It isn't like when you're telling a joke when you can, change the intonation or read the crowd. Making it work on the page is a real trick. Anybody else, your use of humor, what it's been like for you? Have you used it, or is it challenge, Sharon?
My one character, Grandpa Woody.
Yes.
He's kind of got a little bit of a humorous side about him, and I just um remember when I was younger, I used to have these really quick comebacks, and they were just like just hilarious. But
Yeah.
nowadays, I'm not so quick at coming back with those kind of smarty remarks.
What I like
Um,
about this is the way you framed it through Grandpa Woody, because I told you from the minute we saw him, I think we reacted very strongly. Go, this is an important character. He jumped
Mhm.
off the page to all of us, and part of it is his humor. He gives a grounding force to your story that because your character is so dislodged and so
Mhm.
confused, we, as much as we care for her, it's uncomfortable. But in comes Grandpa Woody to ground her and go, I got you, and do what he does.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now we have a goal or somewhere for her to go. She trusts Grandpa Woody, we can trust Grandpa Woody and feel good about that. And yeah, he's got that sensible humor to him
and
too.
then and Sharon, did it help you when you found that humor? Did it help you as the writer to, and
Oh
Daryl
yeah,
and Karen
definitely. I
with
it was
your,
like touching back into the what I used to be like
oh,
when I
how
was
nice.
younger.
Yeah.
Um, very kind of smarty. It's not you like
Hey, I might
somebody would tell me I'm a
possibly,
smart ass or something like that, and I turn around and just show 'em my butt.
yeah.
Important point about what Sharon's saying about finding pieces of ourselves in all of our characters, right? Because a lot of times when we're starting out, and we've heard it here, right? That, Daryl was writing Daryl for a while. To get that aesthetic distance and realize, by the way, Daryl, there's just as much of you in Vincent as there is in Kathy or Johnny or the grandniece and nephew or Miguel, right? Those are all pieces of you too. And you can place those pieces, like Sharon said, of maybe a lost piece of self when you find their voice on the page. And when they start talking and or doing something and people go, oh, I love that person. And sometimes you as a writer go, you did? Oh. And then you go, okay, I'm just going to pull on that thread. Let's see if I can do more of that thing,
Yeah.
because that's the importance of our feedback. Once again, every week, we don't know, right? I mean, exactly what we have or don't. And yet the room validates that for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Susan, you're muted.
You mute yourself again.
That's okay. I appreciate muting, especially if there's noise. Yeah. All good. Like that.
Oh, that's why.
Thank you
Go
so
ahead,
much.
Susan.
Enthusiastic.
I am, uh, I am learning me. I'm learning who I am now and who I was. So there's sort of like an oversight that comes when you're writing, that there's, and maybe that's the aesthetic distance, that you can be truthful. You can allow yourself to
Mhm.
kind of own something.
Yeah.
And Sharon, I would posit, if you can be funny in your story, it's not who I used to be. It's,
Right.
if you can do it right now, you still are that person.
That's
I
right.
know.
Hmm.
You're speaking towards neuroplasticity, Susan. You really are,
Yeah,
because it's a
really.
different pathway to something that's still there, right? Maybe the traditional route isn't there. However, adaptively speaking, it
Mhm.
could be there. Just the same way as our good friend Paula became a painter post-diagnosis. That had been in her apparently, and she found a different pathway and said, "Oh, look at this is inside of me apparently." And it's not like, oh, she's kind of good. No, it's like, oh my God, where did that come
Prolific,
from?
yeah.
Right? Yeah. So we do have either familiar pieces or just as if not more exciting, new pieces of ourselves waiting to be discovered. And for I think a number of you in this room, that points directly to who we are. How many of you thought of yourself as writers? Really, a writer who would dare to put something out like what you have in front of you looks right now. How many of you really said, "Oh no, that's me. I've always had a novel or a screenplay in me"? I'm seeing a lot of shaking heads. Yeah, Karen feels that she had that.
Oh gosh, yeah. I dreamed this my entire life, but yes, I did see that. I did fear that it was gone, and Parkinson's, I couldn't even type for a number of years. So yeah, the whole dream come true. This is That's why, yeah, like I said yesterday, this is big. This is huge. This is basically the biggest validating thing I've had in my life, other than being a mother. This is.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
So
And I love to write, but I'd never written fiction.
right.
I was as afraid of fiction as I was of improv.
There's as many pathways as there are people, right? And so whether we've always dreamed it but didn't know the road, or whether we never dreamed it and now find ourselves on the road, the great news is the ensemble has room for everybody, and in fact is strengthened by that, Karen.
How it came down to a diamond is, I can't even begin to explain the irony in that too. It's just, again, thank you. And thank you for letting me be a part of everybody else's too. This has been great. Just
Well, let's talk about this. So we've got in Diamond Pitch this woman who has an abusive, shotgun start to the story. And again, one thing you got sensibly from the beginning, and this was your second time through the story, but you really got the idea of going there quickly. And I don't know how much learning about screenplays helped you, because screenplays are particular forms that don't have the room that novels or novellas do to sometimes meander a little or explain things further. If you can't see it on the page or hear it, if you can't see it on the screen or hear it, it doesn't belong on the page. And so it's a specific kind of writing that forces you to get there, right? So let's stop right there. How was that process, learning to write a screenplay, which you didn't have a background for? And how do you think it helped you get windy?
keep me out of my own head, and from just spinning off on this idea and that philosophy and that thing. No, the structure made it happen. And I just, the better I got at it, and the more everybody was like, wow, you can do this, was I just really feel like I finally found something I can do, and hope I can do it well enough to make a difference. And yeah, seeing it here, and thank you, Sharon, for helping me make the image too. I just, and just like I said, right down to the diamond. I've been drawing diamonds as my symbol of truth for years. And when I finally figured out it was a baseball diamond I've been drawing for years, again, it just clicked like no tomorrow, rooting me to before I was born, my childhood, bringing me home, and now an evolution of a me that I always wanted to be, that I didn't think was possible.
And Karen,
And
I don't know if you can
looked
see
at
it.
without
I don't know if the rest of you guys can see this, Karen. I don't know if you can see it, but you have diamonds sparkling all in your hair.
What?
Yes, you
Yeah.
do.
It's really,
Well,
it's
that's the
really,
other
Wow.
way. There's diamonds all over the bedspreads and
I just want to tell you,
it was like that when I got here. Oh my gosh.
a diamond is full of facets, and you just have so many wonderful
well said.
parts.
So, this is wonderful. Yeah. Karen, Within your story, is a woman who, you know, really is looking for worth, and she's looking for value, right? And you know, she has some skills, but you know, how to place those skills seems like a mystery, right? And she has to really give up everything and start over in a, you know, in a familiar and at the same time unfamiliar place, right? She's returning home, but it looks very different than the home she grew up in. And not only going to survive there, but trying to find out a way to, you know, to thrive, to save the community. It's a ridiculous offering that Wendy's going to come from, you know, decades of being gone, now with Parkinson's, struggling with economic and social and all these other things, and say, by the way, I'm going to save the community too. I mean, and that's what she does, right? That's the insane thing. That's the offering, and that is what she does. Let me ask, open this class. What do you guys feel about that journey? Again, aesthetically looking at that and seeing Wendy go from where she was to where she gets to be. Talk to me, Sharon, Susan, or Daryl, as I let in the dog, about what worked for you in this story.
Well, I think that she just her her way of evolving, just going from what she thought she wanted to do with her story, but then realizing that this is the way she needed to go with it. And I thought that was the biggest step she made.
Yeah, wonderful. So, you know, and that's a really important part of the hero's journey, is the recognition of what the hero thinks he, she, or they know, and then what they learn that helps them invent their path or discover. And maybe they do eventually still get where they thought they did, but the way they got there is totally unexpected, you know, to where, you know, and if we don't have, as we often say, these significant ups and downs, we don't have a story. And
Right.
you know, a lot of you struggled with that, and that's not, I don't mean to call you out as you, this writers struggle with this generally, is putting their hero in significant and realistic peril, giving them enough obstacles. Talk about the difficulty and maybe the gift, once again, of aesthetic distance in putting your hero, who clearly you care about, in both realistic and high enough stakes obstacle and problem places.
100% unnatural. I was just like foreign, and it felt wrong, and I fought the concept, and then I experimented because it was such a central theme twice in the hero's journey. You know, where there's real battle and then there's a bigger battle, and once I played with it a little bit, it was a little bit like naming my character and separating her from me. But the violence that, I don't know if you suggested it, Robert, or the class said, or maybe it was probably just you talked enough about clear and
Engaging.
and as opposed to boring and confusing and boring. I saw the merit in that, and then I saw it become a better story. And then, so when I got to the second real scene with potential death, I understood why I needed it to happen. And that allowed me to understand Wendy better and to be cheering for Chrissy and for Vincent to, God, like, you know, like stand in his own light and power. But I had to really live it before I could, you know, immerse myself in it before I could get it.
Let's go around the room and talk about the life or death moments in either yours or anyone else's script that affected, or story that affected you, because I think that's really classically where we get to. It's one of our deepest fears, death, of course, and how to value life. What was a moment either in yours or someone else's story, that life or death, that affected you? Karen.
I faced my biggest fears.
So, but give me the moment. That's a statement.
The
What-
moment when JJ's murdered.
There we go. Okay, so you have a literal, not just a death, but a murder. I mean,
Yeah.
that is brutal. And
Yeah.
it's not cheap. It's not like you don't do it. I mean, as some would, put violence there for the sake of violence. It is
No.
real, it is harsh, it is felt, it fits your environment, and it just throws the stakes through the roof.
Yeah, and it did. That wasn't the only part. I faced so many of my biggest fears with the aesthetic distance that, and it helped me deal with things that, I by putting it on the page that way, it eased the paranoia that I was afraid that certain things might have panned out in real life.
Well, and without giving away too much, you faced kind of an opposite challenge where you gave Wendy almost superhero like powers to start kicking ass, and eventually you felt the pushback from the room to say, you can't just keep doing this, right?
No, it didn't make sense, and it was no part of me whatsoever. And it was coming across. You can't, you can't, you got your aesthetic distance, but you're still, your
Yeah.
character's still who they are, and I'm still who I am. And yeah, I'm just, the little bit in the beginning worked, but to continue it wasn't real. It wasn't truth. Where
It's
there's more
seductive.
truth where there's more truth in fiction than there is in fact, I was starting to lie, feeling like that was the right fit, and it wasn't. And that's where, as a group, is so important. Just like the comedy, you don't know it's going to be funny until you put it down there. And it was the same with this. I didn't know it until I tried it. And
That's right.
So I backpedaled it.
Well, and that's what's so important. I'm glad you said that, Matthew said something similar yesterday. There are times we're going to write things, entire pieces that just don't work.
Uh-huh.
And yet, what this class did so well, I know Susan and I talk a lot about this, you guys did so well, was you turned something in every week, no matter how you felt about it. I know you felt better or worse about certain pieces, but back to your point, Daryl, where you hit the wall at week 10 previously, you didn't let that happen here. And I mean, can you speak to why you were able to push through this time you took there?
I was watching out for the wall, but it was from the class. I just got a lot of help, a lot of push, a lot of energy.
You know what I think helped maybe is that, because this is a nod to your creativity. What you had a lot of in your story, and I think it's where you went, was when previously things got tough, you went into an imaginary space.
That's correct. Yes,
right.
Right.
And while it might have been individually interesting, it didn't ground the reality of Vincent's world. And when we were able to kind of pull you out of that and make Vincent deal with the realistic people and realistic situations, the story just it grew up and no longer, I mean, because you mentioned the wall, you wrote about this fantastic ice wall. I remember.
That's right. That's right.
And it was metaphorically fascinating. Yeah. I don't know what the hell I had to do with anything, but it was well written.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you had a chicken, and you had, ghosts all over the place. And, I mean, and it's not that you can't have pieces of these elements, but the ones that sing to us are Kathy and Johnny and Miguel and the little nephew who is in peril in a life or death situation, right? And even, this is where, of course, you can have Lucia, there in her back, or Sophia as she became, right? So you can allow her a space without having her be the whole. So, yeah, very interesting journey, man.
I remember getting back to where Vincent was really in peril. It was when Leo, the 10-year-old nephew, was afraid of him, wouldn't come near him. And that, I didn't plan that. It just happened.
Wow.
And you did the wonderful childlike thing of giving Leo's older sister, what's his grandniece's name? Mia?
Yeah.
Mia. You gave Mia the opportunity to draw that drawing you mentioned earlier of
Yes.
drawing him in the house. And
Yeah.
it's exactly what a child would do with feelings he or she couldn't understand, right? Is draw them out and put something profound in front of you that they don't even understand. You go, oh, crap.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what Vincent did, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Speaking truth to power to my granduncle. Which, what does a kid know? Right?
But
And Vincent saw himself in the role of his father.
Yes. And the role
That
of men in
scared
the family. That's right.
scared him. The
You
father.
know, yeah. That thing of, from the mouths of babes. And again, none of these things are what work in anybody's stories unless they're there for you. But you were able to find that once you again extended the family and brought them forward. And once again, what I heard you say that I like so much is you didn't expect it. And when I'm reading your pieces, I can feel you discovering things on the page. And I mean that as a compliment because it's like, oh, that just happened for him because it just happened for me. You give us the gift of surprise, which is so lovely. So thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. So when we speak globally about this process, which everyone has done so beautifully here, and let's take a look forward and maybe address directly our friends in the Rocksteady community, who we hope to really open this program up to. How many? I don't know. Does anyone Rocksteady box in this group right here? I don't know that anybody does. No.
I
Okay.
used to box.
Used to. Okay. So for those who don't know, in case you're watching this, what is Rocksteady Boxing? It's this dynamic program developed for the Parkinson's community that helps with the psychosocial as well as the physical, because they have very wonderful communication type exercises and the environment they present. It isn't just a start gym and go hit bags. That's not at all what they do. They make it very community oriented. And that's why I think our partnership is such a good one, that they got immediately, oh yeah, we do this much and you're doing that much more. You could yes and who we are as a brand. And by the way, that's 30,000 plus boxers and 800 plus affiliates around the world. You may have heard me say this, and this is what I wanted to put forward to you guys about the state of this program and possibility against Parkinson's. In 2008-ish, exercise in Parkinson's was kind of do it if you want to, but who really knows? And then come programs like Rocksteady and a few others, and they get some research done. And the research turns the academic and medical world on its head to where all these people who before were saying whatever now say, oh yeah, exercise like you brush your teeth. They're 100% certain about it. Now in Parkinson's, we know we've exposed the fact that the psychosocial emotional side is as much, if not more, than the motor side. We know that. And thankfully, there is research by good people like Bradley McDaniels and Dr. Subramanian and many others. Now, the question is, what are we going to do about it? Because the current line of thinking is support groups or cognitive behavioral therapy. We're not trying to say that cinema therapy is the answer. It is just the same. Rocksteady Boxing doesn't say it's the exercise. However, it's another lane. It is something that should be offered in between cognitive behavioral therapy and support groups to address this very known issue. How do you all feel about that, the positioning of that, and what we can do with it?
I would say we all have demons, whether we acknowledge them or not, and they affect us, whether we understand that or not. And this is a format and a platform which I have to add is reinforced by improv. The question you asked a few minutes ago, Robert, about what was the one scene in our story that was kind of like the real heavy scene. I was more able to write that because you created games that were completely intimidating to me because I was shy and didn't want to do those improv weird, crazy things. And I slowly got more confident through improv, which it really did make it possible for me to battle those demons and to see the hero, within.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much. And the role of competence within all of this, right? To recognize when we have a hypothesis, what is it we're going toward, and why do we think it'll land in that 95%? Daryl, and then Karen.
I'm thinking for some guys especially, this may be they look at it as too touchy-feely. It's not macho. And it's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It's extraordinarily brave. Writing is bare knuckles when you're really doing it, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing soft and easy about it. Not if we're going to tell a story that matters. I mean, and I think that's the word, right? Story. People think, people either they think it's binary, you can or you can't, which is not true. And B, they think, well, it just kind of floats out when you get in touch with those airy fairy feelings. No, you have to, like Susan said, address some things that you either knew about and didn't want to, or didn't know about and are going to be surprised that come up. And so again, are you courageous enough to really put that on the page? And then some people would ask, well, why would I do that? And so let me ask you all, why put that, and again, aesthetic distance is the safety. Why put that out there, though? Because the question, you've heard it before. People, they ask it all the time out there, where did this come from? And then there's the possibility of being exposed, this, that, and the other. Why would you guys choose to put those pieces of you that are not you out there? What good does it do? Because that's what people are asking right now. Why would I do that? Why? So you tell me. Yeah, Susan, and then Karen.
It's a release of a tension that's in there that you may or may not be aware of, but it is a release.
Great. So there's a literal freeing. Karen.
Self-discovery through relating to other people's stories. You put it out there, and that's where the connection is. And you'll never know if you don't put it out there. And what this does for the cognitive, it's a way to fight back with words. Okay, in Rocksteady Boxing, we're fighting back with our bodies, and we're learning that our bodies can still do something. Then in here, we're fighting back with words and trying to figure out how our brains work. We put these two great therapies together. I mean, I just can't wait to see the results, because like I've said many times, I've got doctors in 2 different states looking at how I was a few years ago compared to how I am now, going, wow. And I really pushed and have been pushing for, I think they have been doing some studies. Improv really needs to be looked into as being the next best therapy, along with exercise for Parkinson's. And we should be giving prescriptions for this. Not everybody's going to be able to do the writing, honestly, but the people that can and can put that okay, if exercise is the best medicine along with this, and yeah, they're talking about reducing my medicine now, and I've been almost 10 years. I know I'm not the only one that's benefited this much too. There's a couple, Daryl, you said certain things about your symptoms before and after class. Sharon, you've got your proof on your wrist. Susan, yours and my self-esteem, because from being the little kids that didn't have a lot of self-esteem to what we've been able to build up now, just in the short 2 years I've known you. Oh my gosh, we definitely have a kick-ass formula here.
So this is where, and I'll get to you in just one sec, Sharon, what you just said, what I heard, Karen, is this idea that what we're doing is holistic, that, just like with Parkinson's, because we don't know the whole of it, how would you really treat Parkinson's because you don't know the whole of it? What if it became about, well, let's treat the whole human being and let the benefit rise up through whatever is going on, right? This is a holistic treatment. And to that end, people asking the natural question I get all the time, does that mean this could work beyond Parkinson's? Yes. And for those listening or maybe thinking about that, if you have other lanes, other, structures that you would like to see this incorporated into, absolutely. From a solvent business standpoint, we'd love to work with you. So please keep that in mind. Sharon.
I just think it was wonderful. The feeling of being capable again and not having that feeling that other people are controlling what I want.
So you're talking about autonomy, which
Mhm.
Matthew talked a lot about yesterday, and
Right.
agency. These are things that Parkinson's tends to strip away. We know that the loss of these things, the dependence upon others, not just for physical reality, but emotional reality, which is exactly what Chrissy deals with, right?
Right.
Gaslit 100% by Betty
Mhm.
Sue. And we know that that is absolutely something that goes on in relationships between people and their Parkinson's and themselves and family members. Some
And it
well,
was such a big thing that I've been dealing with in my personal life too. So just to
so
be able to put it out there as a person of a character, not myself, that
there it
was
is.
made it so much easier for me to deal with it.
This is, I know from the principles of cognitive behavioral therapy that do make sense and are established, why they do things like some therapists do role play, why they bring people to allow themselves to see themselves outside of themselves, right? And it doesn't mean the whole self, but it can be a facsimile, an archetype, a piece of, and go, oh, and I brought this up yesterday. It's one of my favorite things that happens. Every once in a while, you guys will be talking and you'll hear the words coming out of your mouth as if they were for the first time ever in your head. They'll go into your ear and you go, I just said something that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I love that moment.
Me too. Yes.
But it took putting it out there. And that is the practice of the writing that, again, seeing it on the page, listening to others react to what you put on the page. And then maybe, as we sometimes do, reading things out loud. So you go, oh, wow, that now that I hear it out, that's different. Susan and I do that in our one-on-ones a lot of times. We'll read things out loud and we'll go, okay, wait a minute. Because, even seeing it was one thing, but hearing it, wait a minute, and we catch things like that. So this is all part of the writing process. This is all part of, again, the greatness of what we do. And we're up against our hour now, which is, again, like so many things, gone by so fast.
I'm
So I
glad
want
you
to give
mentioned
all of
that,
you,
though, Robert, for future groups, as students in this program, have someone read your piece to you or read it out loud for
we
someone
can do it
else.
in breakout groups. I just thought the same thing that,
Yeah.
we can just, workshop that. It'd be hard to do that every week, but maybe in reflection weeks or something, give people a chance to one-on-one their work out loud with the other person reading their work, right?
With the other person
So
reading it, yes.
yeah. So anyway, yeah, we'll look into that. It's a good point. Thank you. So, well, beyond thanking you and being terrifically filled with gratitude for all of you and highlighting the fact once again, these are success stories. The fact that they are where they are now. Do any of you want to offer anything to the person who's watching this for the first time, saying that's not me or that's impossible? Any kind of closing words of encouragement or support to invite in not just the person with Parkinson's, the care partner, the family member, even the wellness specialist to say, your story does matter and there's a pathway to it being a success story. Does anyone want to add anything to that?
I have several things. Karen, go ahead.
Go ahead, Karen.
You will be thrilled beyond belief at what you'll discover about yourself. The process is hard, but what you gain out of it is worth every word.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karen. Susan?
I would like to let people know that all of us who've done this, and I've done it, what, 5 times? 6, 5, 6, something like that, end up throwing stuff away that we actually wrote and spent time doing. And there is an emotional thing that you go through when you either set it aside for maybe future use, or you say, no, I'm just not going that direction anymore at all. We've all been there. Some of us get through 5 or 6 weeks before we go, oh. So to give yourself permission to accept a shift, a change without judgment.
That's a big offering. Yeah. And you're right. That's something that's frequent in here. It's frequent for the process of writing. And it takes the word that came up yesterday, maturity, to accept that. The process is going to be up and down, messy, better and worse. And that's, yeah. Thank you very much. Sharon.
Yeah, I just want to say, just remember that first day of school when you were scared to go and you don't have any idea what this is all about. Just dive in, you'll love it.
And that
I
was
mean,
very
really, you'll meet so many new people that are supporting you and helping you along the way. And it's sort of similar in the fact that for Rocksteady Boxing, when you first took that step in, what were you feeling? And how did you feel afterwards? Just relate to that because this is similar in that fact that you have the support here for you to 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 put your story down. Your story is as important as anybody else's. It needs to be heard
beautiful,
in some
Sharon.
way.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad you brought that corollary because the same words were said by Ryan Cotton, the CEO of Rocksteady Boxing, about the weirdness of the first day in the gym for most people. So the corollary is there. Our relationship is there. Thank you. And Daryl, I saw your hand.
I think the improv piece is important. And Susan, I remember you were entirely new to improv, right?
Yes.
Now you're teaching it.
Yeah, yes, I am.
Awesome.
In 2 different
That's
classes.
awesome.
And Daryl, you had a bit of a background in improv before you came to us,
A
right?
long time ago, yeah, I did.
So you had
Yeah.
a comfort level.
And somebody may be saying, "Oh, that's just silly," or they may be saying, "I can't be Wayne Brady." What, are you kidding me? But
Who can?
do it.
Pretty.
Who
Yeah.
can? Yeah.
It's another discussion for another time about the threshold of improv. And we know what it is that, a lot of times it terrifies people right up there with public speaking. That's not me, impossible. I can't be Wayne Brady, Robin Williams, Tina Fey, whomever else. And the point is none of us need to be, none of us ever could be, but they weren't who they were until they started accepting themselves through the voice that they developed. And again, whole other topic, but you're exactly right. And just from a confidence standpoint, to let people know the way we improvise is extraordinarily safe and easy and non-performative. So there's none of the being on stage up there to terrify you. Yeah, Karen.
And using that in the Yes and story games with our characters is part of how we pull the strings out of the darkness into the light.
Important.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. Susan mentioned that too. The application of the improv to the writing. Yeah, because I guess I'll note that on the final bit here. For those of you who are traumatized by writing for whatever reason, you had a teacher, you had a parent, a sibling, somebody who said you can't write, who said you're a bad writer, who said this is embarrassing, who said whatever they said about your writing. This is a safe and brave space. It's not puppy dogs and lollipops. I don't want you to think that. It's still work. However, it's work you can do if you show up. And the room will bring you there. The hero's journey will bring you there. ChatGPT will bring you there. Between it all, we can rehabilitate whatever that I can't thing was to show you that you can. You absolutely can.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not about being better than in the improv world, Wayne Brady, Robin Williams, Tina Fey, or in the writing world, Shakespeare, Edgar Allan Poe, Maya Angelou. It's not about being better than. It's about being the authentic you. And that authentic you is better than you believe it is. I guarantee you that. And that's the uncovering. That's the polish of the diamond.
It is.
Right. Yeah. So that's what we discovered together. Thank you.
What a great hour. Gosh, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
discussion. I just love the depth that we get out of it.
Yeah. Well, you are all living, breathing, shining success stories. And please take these words, take this video, share it with others. We'll be cutting it into pieces so you can grab snippets and things. Let's spread the word. We've got a great community of rock steady boxers who are ready to get in the ring, and us in the ring with them. And let's get Rocky. Hey, yo, Rocco! Come on. Get him. You guys take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.